If I was to ask you what a financial advisor looks like, I can imagine what you're picturing. It's an old man, potentially looks like Dracula. That is the case, and that's the truth, and that's the problem. At the moment, the demographics have shifted, and there's not enough young advisors. And there is now a new and better way to become a financial advisor. So, if you have ever considered this, now is the time. The wealth management industry is dealing somewhat with an existential crisis at the moment, and that is the demographics of advisors. This is a worldwide problem, but looking at the UK and the US. So in the UK, the bulk of advisors are in the age group 50 to 60. There's about 10,000 advisors in the UK in that age bracket. And there's about 6,000 advisors at 60 plus. These numbers are going up all the time. So in the next decade, we're going to have an advisor gap because they are not being replaced. And to illustrate the problem, the number of advisors under 25 in the UK giving retail investment advice or giving retail advice, 174. And that number had fallen 50% to what it was in 2022. So we're not replacing advisors, and young advisors are not getting into the industry for some reason. The other thing is that in the US, the expectation is that in the next decade, there will be a shortage of about 100,000 advisors. So to anybody thinking about coming into the industry, now is the time. Becoming a financial advisor has always been a bit difficult. The route has always been slightly opaque, and most people tend to just fall into financial advice over time. In addition to that, now we have higher barriers to entry. Long gone are the days of the 1980s when the financial services industry was like the Wild West, and someone with a standard grade in geography could become a financial advisor. Nowadays, you need to be qualified to level 4 at the minimum with a general industry push towards being chartered, which is equivalent to a degree. So there are some barriers to entry that are preventing people from becoming a financial advisor on top of this kind of opaque route. But if you can manage to get through that, it is a great time to do it because as these older advisors retire, there are clients that need to be looked after. And younger advisors coming up through the ranks can be well positioned to do that. Another one of the fears cited is that it's about maths. That's not really true. There are some maths, but it's broadly not really about maths. In reality, what a financial advisor does is sell solutions in part and also plan with a client to work out what they desire and how best to make that happen. The solutions are then dropped into that plan to make it become a reality. It's actually about building relationships with people and understanding them and understand what they are looking to achieve. So if you think you can do that, then you might be the right person for the role. Now that might mean setting up insurances. It might mean setting up pensions, it might mean setting up investments, it might mean tax planning, or it might mean modelling. You can model someone's wealth into the future to understand the extent to which their goals are achievable. So there's a huge range of things that it entails. It's not just simply doing maths. Now here's the old route that was very commonplace up until recently. You get a job as an administrator in a financial company. And you therefore start sitting your exams whilst you are an administrator. Sometimes the company will pay for those exams for you. Once you're qualified and you've worked there for some time and you've been hopefully shown to be competent, you then look for the role of paraplanner. A paraplanner effectively takes the advice and puts it into a report. They write the report. They do some of the technical analysis as well. They discuss with the advisor what the advice should look like. And then, once they've done that for a while, then they can look to become a financial advisor. Now, there is a problem with that approach. There's a positive and a negative. On the positive side, it's good for technical minds and it's good for building your technical knowledge. However, advisors and paraplanners are often quite different people, and being good at one doesn't mean you're good at the other. In fact, it can work in exact equal opposite proportion to that. And that was always a bit of a problem. But there is now a second route. Interlude. Being a financial advisor is a fantastic job. You have unimaginable freedom to run your own diary. You get to see lots of great places and meet lots of lovely people. And because of the supply and demand issue, the salaries are going up. An entry-level salary for a chartered financial advisor is about 60,000, but for experienced advisors, it's more like 80 to 100,000 pounds a year, and you can earn bonuses on top of that. And because of this supply and demand issue, those numbers continue to go up. Right, so the other route is, in the past, regulations in the industry were a lot lower, and things didn't always go the way they were supposed to go. Now, the consequence of that is that over the last few decades, regulations have come up and up. And that's good for the client, but it also means that the cost to serve for the advice company has gone up significantly. And what that means is that it's harder to service clients in a profitable manner. And therefore, the industry needed to come up with something new, and they did. And what they came up with was a sort of telephone advice route. And this is how I came into advice. So I didn't go through the paraplanning route. I was an administrator, and my company opened up a telephone advice team. And the idea was that those advisors were trainees, and they would come into the telephone advice team. They would have to be qualified, but they'd come into the telephone advice team. So you wouldn't have to suddenly come to the company with a big book of business that you could bring with you. You didn't have to have any clients at all. You were brought in, given clients, and you learned how to work with clients, and you did that on the phone. And that did two things. It helped the big companies service their less profitable clients by using this service, using these younger advisors, as they're less expensive, but it also trained those advisors. And when I started in the telephone advice team in 2015, I was surrounded by other advisors who in many cases have also become fully fledged financial advisors. So it's a springboard for young advisors to learn and then become fully fledged advisors without going through paraplanning. It's a much faster route. So if you are thinking about becoming an advisor, the summary is it's a great time. There's a huge advisor gap. There's none of us, basically, young, and there's an easier way to do it. So if you want to ask me anything about that, please do. I'd be happy to answer those questions. And if you like this channel for other reasons and the other stuff that I do, please do like and subscribe. Thank you.